Help support our coverage with PureVPN, the fast, secure way to protect your connection at home or on the go. Get exclusive savings now at techpodcast.com/PureVPN. Our next guest is here. Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. Go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Yeah, so I'm Sam Steele. I'm the founder and, I guess, lead engineer of Dismo Industries that makes the Cyber Fidget. I'm over in Eureka Park trying to gauge feedback on should I keep making them. And I'm a one-man band, so I really struggled over the title.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I got to see these, Sunday night, was it? Yeah. At Unveiled.
Yep.
Super cool, but go ahead and explain what it is we're looking at here.
Yeah, so it's a electronic gadget. I've got a couple of them here. That is machined in my shop. It's an electronic fidget toy. So it started off as the concept of have some clicky buttons in a screen, something that's not like a mechanical pen or a spinner, and have a retro cyberpunk vibe on it. And then it was like, all right, that seems like a cool idea. I ended up drawing it up, and it just kind of escalated a little bit from there. And then ended up designing a circuit board for it and all the software to try and get the screen going. And I was like, all right, well, I've got all this time invested with it. Maybe I could convert this into, kind of an educational type device. And that's where it's kind of escalated for the extra support, because people are kind of intimidated by how this type of stuff works, I've found, getting into programming and electronics. Yeah. So this whole project's open source. I'm really trying to make a product that's sustainable in the sense of it's not proprietary, nothing's locked down, it's not tied to a server. I'm trying to make the thing that I want.
Yeah.
And that's really where it's kind of gone. Just keeping it going from there. I've got a Kickstarter that I'm using to gauge feedback. It's in pre-launch right now. I think Sunday when you and I talked, I had 2 people. And now I think I'm up to 90 with no ad spend or anything. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
okay. Well, I mean that's movement.
It's movement. I started off showing off some art fairs locally, just to early paid beta testers. Let me figure out how is this working? Because I got signed up for CES and I realized I hadn't talked to anybody about this product outside of my friend group. So over near Detroit, I was going sitting next to people that are actual artists with a piece of billet and a OLED screen on it, going, yeah, I fit in here. So. But one of the things that motivated me to do is I realized I'm not an artist, but how do I connect with artists on this who might not have the technical expertise to write code from hand?
Yeah.
So on my website, I ended up building a bunch of tools where you can go on there and draw, and then have it one-click flash. You don't need to know anything about programming, but you can make the screensavers on it, interact with it, and then kind of peel back the layers and introduce people into, hey, this is how this type of stuff works. You don't have to care, but if it's a thing that you want to know, it's all a part of that ownership and trying to, better people of, this is what's inside of this stuff. It's not as burdensome as programming for a phone or something.
Right.
And that's part of the reason behind the monochrome screen. The pixels, they're on, they're off.
Right.
Keep it simple. Focus on game mechanics or art or something to that effect.
Sure. And
you get the thing out of your head as opposed to figuring out how to turn it on.
Yeah, there's 2 big challenges in software. I happen to be an engineer. That's my day job.
Okay. We'll get along great then.
It's the first half is the getting something out of your head.
Yes.
And the other is the last 5%.
Yes.
Of getting it publishable, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not trying to make it publishable, you're screwing around with a thing as an artist for yourself or whatever, none of that matters.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's just I need to get it out of my head, so streamlining that process is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, this really was kind of a thing that I made for myself, and every Wednesday I go to trivia with a bunch of friends. I've been doing that for 10 years.
Wow.
And so when I started working on this a couple years ago, it was like, hey, look at the thing I made. And everybody's like, whoa, this is kind of cool. All right. And then come back a couple weeks later, it's like, hey, here's an app I made. So it was a thing to pocket, and then I found myself making apps or screensavers and see how people interact with the games. There's a reaction time game, which was the first one I made. It just says go on the screen and how fast can you click it, and it just prints out the time that it took. By far the most popular thing. It was the simplest thing that I made. It was just like a proof of concept. Does the button work? Does the screen work?
Right. That makes sense.
And it turns out it's the thing that they all get competitive on for who can get the lowest time, as we're just sitting at the bar. And it's like, there might be something to this.
In high school, on the TI-85 calculator, I wrote one of those like driving, avoid the things in the road.
Oh yeah.
Type games,
Yep.
and it was just done with a 0 and a pipe and a forward and a backslash.
Yeah. No.
Most popular thing in school.
It's funny how that works. When you focus on the mechanics and like the actual core of it, it's like you can have all this prettification of it all. And I mean, that's cool. Like, I appreciate that stuff.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's
modern Final Fantasy is beautiful, but it's not as much fun to play as, you know, the early ones.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And people have come up with like interesting spins on stuff. Like there's a like a breakout game on there.
Okay.
So that's traditionally there's a ball that's bouncing, and then you got to break all the bricks, and once you break them all, you do it as fast as you can, and that's the score, right? But there's an accelerometer in there, so you tilt the device as opposed to hitting buttons to move it back and forth. And now you've got a completely analog way of controlling it super dynamically. And it's like, oh, such a simple tweak on just the input of that. Like now there's no buttons involved, which is kind of funny and, you know, hypocritical of the device.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it just was a super easy thing to just pull together of like, all right, well, what is it tilted this much, that much, and just have it be ratiometric, play with it, you know, figure out the math behind that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And not have to figure out like, oh, well, what's the software required to make the accelerometer work? It's all on the GitHub. It's like you can go to the website, you can pull all the code is the goal. And then if you want to tweak a line of code, like if you wanted to change the sensitivity on it, well, go find that line, tweak it, and see what it does.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to break it. So.
Okay.
So.
I remember in school, probably middle school, somebody got into Snake, right?
Yeah.
Or that may not have been what it was called in
pre-Nokia days.
Yeah. But that was it, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing he did was he decided, nope, I don't want the borders. If you go out the right, I want to come back in the left.
Blows up all the math.
It absolutely does.
Now I need to intentionally overflow this. How?
Yeah. So stuff like that was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been funny figuring out like all the little bits that you think it's going to be super obvious on how to make it work, and then you go there and you're like, well, that's completely backwards from what I expected.
Yeah.
But you incidentally start learning from that, and it kind of becomes a little bit of a fun game of a puzzle, right? So I think if it's not forced, it doesn't feel like homework, but it's a natural progression. At least I've been dealing with Arduino since they came out.
Sure.
And like playing with those is fun. They serve their purpose, but getting a screen hooked up to it and all this, like that bit is enough of the fun. So it was like, all right, make a package that's got the whole thing included. So that way, hey, I want to make Snake, but it goes, you know, from the right side and wraps around as opposed to bouncing off the screen or not letting you.
Yeah.
Like with that breakout game, it's like, well, what do I do with the ball if it goes off the side? Do I let it go to the other side? Do I treat the wall as a thing? How much does it bounce off the side of the wall? Like all sorts of little things like that.
Yeah.
And then you start getting into, you know, how that type of stuff works, and maybe it's fun, and the whole thing is as people hopefully build up a community and start sharing the apps, I want all those things to be open. So instead of a traditional app store where it's like you don't get a copy of how it works, I want to see and try on the shoe of if you go to the website and you build up an app, you publish it, it's a one-click thing, and it's just available through everyone else, and they can see how it works. And you kind of build up this open ecosystem. And then that way the people that maybe aren't into the program or they're earlier in the stages, they can select the things that interest them because they'll be motivated to pick it apart now, at least hopefully. Mm-hmm. And it's just in something that's not embarrassing to hold.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a package deal. It's not a breadboard in your pocket.
Right.
You know? So.
Yeah, I love. You said you were machining these yourself?
Yeah. So I've got a home shop. I saved up and was shopping for a 5-ton CNC machine for many years, and then I got one. I was like, okay, I got one. Now what do I make with it?
Always the challenge.
Yep. So there were like a few ideas and things that I had for it, but it was one of those strike while the iron was hot. So I got the machine. It was in the shop, and then I've got a friend with me, Jeffrey, who flew up from Florida because I called him and I said, hey, I got a deal on a machine, a CNC mill. How do I turn it on? Can you like fly up and help me do that? I'd been exposed to them, but then when it was my own, it was like, oh, this thing moves way too fast. This could instantly crush my head if it's in the wrong spot. So yeah, so these I make them in Michigan. So I buy the raw billet and I machine them out. to get the fit and finish, to get the heft, to get the clicks, the sound. There's no rattle, and have the machine finish. So that's how it pops out of the mill as a raw finish. And I wanted it to look exotic, right? Like a piece of future tech. And the reflections on that, there was a bunch of work into making it look like that. I'll say that.
Sure.
Just from like the surface
going
finish.
to trade to this one?
Yeah.
Only because it's not as shiny?
Yeah, and I've got the bead blasted one here also, which is a little bit more matte. I realized photographing the shiny ones as a part, like getting a part of the Kickstarter setup.
Yeah.
Was like, this was a curveball I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I can't even take a photograph of this thing. How do I tell people about it?
Yeah, because I was watching in the product cam. I'm like, yeah, nobody has any idea what I'm showing them.
Right. Yeah. So this is a 3D printed one.
Okay.
Since it's, I guess, a little bit of a segue. These, they're meant to be a nice thing to hold, but I realized that younger me would balk at the price because I just didn't have the money. But I want to get younger people involved with this because it's just going to be a fact of life later in the future. And the more I got rewarded from working with Arduinos and those early embedded systems.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with them professionally for over 10 years, in like safety systems. And it's like I've found it's kind of a gap of how do you get more people into this, because I want help in that world.
Right.
So the 3D printed one's about half the price to get that and close the gap, and then also the fun aspect of there's different colored filaments. The files are going to be shared, so you can print your own.
Nice.
The whole thing, instead of all the metal pieces coming with a kit, you get a starter set of the plastic pieces plus the battery and the screws and everything to put it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Kickstarter. That's where we are right now?
Yeah, so it's in pre-launch.
Okay.
Literally, I could just click the button and it would go. I'm trying to figure out, like, when do I do that?
Sure.
So at least today, there's been a bunch of marketing people walking up to me. I think I'm going to have to pit them against Kickstarter a few boosts down. Say, they're telling me I need to buy ads. Should I go with Kickstarter? Should I buy ads? Should I do batch orders? And also kind of just get feedback and see how much traction there is.
Sure.
So I've got a few points on here. The main metal ones, I've got early birds starting at $139. They go up to $179. And then the 3D printed ones are $79, and then just the main board's $49.
Okay.
And the 3D printed one, oddly enough, I checked it. It's about on point with what Arduinos were when they first came out, the Arduino Unos with inflation. So it's like, oh, well, I could figure out how to get the money for that when I was a kid. So
right.
maybe it works out and whatnot. Because I'm really not trying to be a cash grab on this. I'm trying to make a good product.
Right, right.
So very much open to feedback on all sorts of points of it, hence the different pledges on the Kickstarter.
Got it.
When it goes live, because I'm a one-man band. I can't mass produce it. Some of the marketing guys were like, hey, I'll go find an investor. We'll figure out how to scale this thing up. And I was like, yeah, but I really like the idea of this being sustainable and not crazy, because I deal with mass manufacturing normally, with millions of parts in automotive. And it's like, I kind of played that game.
Right.
Let me figure out how to, just make a nice thing that's fun and people enjoy. And,
So if people want more information about this, to find your Kickstarter, whatnot, how can they do that?
Go to cyberfidget.com. There's a link to the Kickstarter on there. There's links to the documentation, the screensaver builder, samples of the tools, like the web programmer. But there's a big old back on Kickstarter at the top of every page on there. So cyberfidget.com.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming up and showing this off.
Thanks, Scott. Really
Appreciate it. Have a good rest of the show.
You too.
The Tech Podcast Network's CES 2026 coverage is executive produced by Adam Barker. Technical director is Ravin Ford. Associate producers are Nancy Ertz, Brandy Jackson, and Beth Price. Our hosts are Marlo Anderson, Don Bain, Scott Ertz, and Serge Velasquez. Graphic design by Vicky Gonzalez. Executive producer emeritus Todd Cochran. Award production is provided by Amrock Fab Lab. Studio equipment is provided by PLUGHITZ Productions. This has been a Tech Podcast Network production, copyright 2026.